Welcome to a retrospective look at The Fifth Element, a film that transports us back to 1997, a peculiar era when navigating soaring taxis through midair was considered the ultimate transit solution, rather than, say, simply digging a few more subway lines. At the heart of this chaotic, colorful narrative is Leeloo, a supernatural entity disguised as a young girl with burnt orange hair, a notable passion for fried chicken, and a vocabulary so limited that it rarely escapes the now legendary phrase, "Big Bada Boom." Her reluctant companion is a taxi driver with a face of chronic exhaustion, joined by an MC sporting hair shaped like a literal pipe and a pitch high enough to shatter anyone's last nerve. Yet, few viewers would guess that behind those vibrant frames lay intense romantic dramas and countless events that left the female lead scarred and bruised in the most literal sense. Now, let's look back at the 20 scenes that audiences hit the pause button on the most. And before we dive in, do not forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. 20. The Diva's theater performance, behind-the-scenes drama revealed. This moment is widely considered the crowning jewel of the entire film, the alien diva's opera performance. As she reaches the soaring heights of her aria, the melody takes a sharp turn into high-energy dance beats. Few viewers realize that this iconic track is titled The Diva Dance, a masterpiece crafted by the talented composer Eric Serra. However, the backstage reality proved even more dramatic than the movie itself. The diva was played by Maywen Lubezko, who was director Luc Besson's wife at the time. Ironically, during filming, the director began pursuing Milla Jovovich, who was only 19 years old then. They made their public debut together at the Cannes Film Festival and officially tied the knot in 1997, marking the end of his marriage to Maywen. But as the saying goes, man proposes, God disposes. The romance between Besson and Jovovich lasted only 2 years before falling apart. 19. Ruby Rhod getting busy with the flight attendant. You surely remember this steamy moment aboard the flight to Fhloston Paradise. Ruby Rhod shares a heated encounter with a stunning flight attendant right in the first-class cabin. Watching this scene, one's eyes might pop out of the head in disbelief. While the camera remains focused on their upper bodies, the sound design describes everything quite vividly. As the plane begins its ascent, the flight attendant cannot help but let out a high-pitched cry of pure excitement. Due to its suggestive nature, networks like Sci-Fi or ABC often cut or heavily edit the segment for family-friendly viewing. To be honest, upon first seeing Ruby's outfit, many assumed he was gay, but just look at how intimately he behaves with those girls. 18. A free lunch with the galaxy's most optimistic chef. If an award existed for the most optimistic person in the galaxy, the restaurant owner in this scene would undoubtedly receive the vote. At this point, Corbin Dallas finds himself at a total dead end. His wife left him, his lawyer ran off with said wife, and then a termination notice arrives right in the middle of his meal. Yet the owner casually drops a bit of philosophy. My grandfather say it never rain every day, and for that kind of spirit, a round of applause is certainly warranted. If one did not have the chance to run the sushi stall in Blade Runner, this Chinese restaurant would be the next choice. Just look at the owner's vibe. You know he is the real deal. Additionally, if you examine the termination card closely, the Zorg Corporation logo becomes visible. As it turns out, Corbin Dallas was an employee of a taxi company owned by none other than the villain Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg. 17. Ruby Rhod's absolutely manic entrance. Chris Tucker's performance was so over the top that it felt as though he was about to launch himself into Earth's orbit. Few know that the legendary musician Prince was actually the first choice for this role, but he turned it down because he felt the character was too effeminate. Thus, Chris Tucker got the part, but the funniest thing is that he later shared how he actually drew inspiration from Prince himself. It is fascinating how a movie released in the 1990s could so accurately predict the explosion of social media and the rise of influencer culture. And did you notice the chemistry, or lack thereof, between Bruce Willis and Chris Tucker? The two reportedly did not get along at all because Willis found Tucker too loud, and one must admit, the guy is loud enough to wake the dead. 16. Leeloo smashes the glass and escapes. This is perhaps one of the most iconic moments in The Fifth Element, the awakening of the supreme being, Leeloo. In the blink of an eye, she punches through ultra-thick safety glass with her bare hands. But setting aside that muscle power for a moment, let's focus on the real focal point, the thermal bandage outfit. Those white strips wrapped around her body were inspired by medical gauze, serving as a clever peekaboo solution to slip past sensors. Milla Jovovich later revealed that the outfit was designed so tightly that she could hardly wear anything underneath, which caused considerable stress and anxiety during action sequences, as the fear of a wardrobe malfunction was always looming. 15. Big Bada Boom. You surely remember this scene. After escaping and crashing into the taxi, Leeloo lets out a stream of strange alien language, leaving Corbin frozen because he has no clue what is going on. And just like that, a classic line was born: "I only speak two languages, English and bad English." Did you know that the language she uses is actually the divine language, consisting of about 400 words meticulously created by director Luc Besson himself? Even more interestingly, Bruce Willis had never heard Milla speak this language until the camera started rolling, which is why his reaction, trying to stifle a laugh, is so authentic. But ironically, it was this very divine language that became the catalyst for a real-life love triangle. 14. Leeloo's reconstruction. Do you remember that classic DNA reconstruction process? Leeloo is rebuilt from just a few cells remaining on a golden armored hand. The scientists in the film use a three-dimensional tissue printing machine to weave every tendon and muscle fiber, rebuilding her entire body from scratch. And did you notice the scene where she is completely naked right after being formed? In reality, the filmmakers used prosthetic breasts for Milla Jovovich. 13. Leeloo Dallas Multipass. This exchange stands as one of the most iconic lines in movie history. Standing before the airport security scanner, Leeloo innocently repeats "Leeloo Dallas Multipass" in a cheerful, childlike voice. Consequently, Corbin Dallas has to rack his brain to explain his strange new bride to the security staff. Did you know Bruce Willis was initially hesitant about this project because the script was so bizarre? However, after reading it, he agreed immediately. In the airport scene, Corbin's awkwardness upon hearing Leeloo say "Multipass" was partly Bruce Willis's genuine reaction to Jovovich's quirkiness and charm. To this day, at cosplay festivals, anyone dressed as Leeloo simply cannot resist shouting this line. 12. That's a very nice hat. The scene where Corbin is on the phone when a mugger bursts in with a high-pitched voice. But instead of throwing a punch, Corbin just casually delivers a sarcastic compliment. Nice hat. This is hands down one of the best character introductions in cinema history. Through a simple sequence of actions performed with total poise, the scene establishes his hero status without any preachy dialogue. He even goes as far as trying to rescue his cat from a stimulant more addictive than catnip, the television. What a sophisticated man. And did you notice his four-legged friend? That cat is actually cross-eyed. 11. Anybody else want to negotiate? This has to be one of the shortest negotiations in movie history. When the Mangalores storm the hotel to steal the 4 stones, taking hostages and creating total chaos, the panicked soldier Fogg exclaims, "Mangalores won't fight without the leader." Corbin simply walks into the room and finishes the leader, Aknot, with a single shot to the forehead. And that is that. No need to waste time arguing. 10. Leeloo eating chicken. In this shot, Leeloo is absorbing knowledge at lightning speed from a futuristic computer. But as the camera zooms in, she is munching on fried chicken and exclaims "chicken good," with a look of absolute satisfaction. Did you know Milla Jovovich was actually enjoying that chicken right there on set? Her expression was so genuine that one might honestly think she had not eaten for 2 days. 9. Police storming in and arresting the wrong guy. The police force arrives in full gear with the latest anti-riot equipment. However, thanks to a simple house number swap by Cornelius and Leeloo, the SWAT team bursts in and arrests the poor neighbor instead. This is a classic satirical jab at public services, flashy and professional on the outside, but ultimately and ridiculously useless. Additionally, if you look closely, Corbin's apartment serves as a prime example of the smart living spaces we strive for today. 8. The elemental connection scene. Do you remember the film's climactic finale? The four heroes pour every ounce of their strength into connecting the ancient elements. At the center of it all is Leeloo, the fifth element. But ironically, she has fallen into a state of exhaustion and completely lost faith in humanity. In that life-or-death moment, Corbin Dallas makes a decisive move. He confesses his sincere love and gives her a passionate kiss. It is love that becomes the final key to activating the ultimate weapon, stopping the catastrophe, and saving all life in the universe. 7. Thanks, Ray. In this scene, Corbin Dallas is backed into a corner during the theater battle. When he runs out of ammunition, a waiter named Ray tosses him a pool ball. Corbin uses it to take down the last Mangalore soldier and casually says, "Thanks, Ray." If you pay close attention, Ruby Rhod is right by Corbin's side throughout this fight, screaming non-stop. The contrast between a battle-hardened warrior and a panicked superstar adds a perfect layer of comedy to that "Thanks, Ray" line. In a movie where weapons can destroy entire planets, sometimes a pool ball and the help of an ordinary waiter are what save the galaxy. 6. Testing the new gun. Famous net launcher. The always efficient flamethrower. The introduction of the ZF-1 rifle by the villain Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg is the definition of calculated madness. Once the first shot hits the mark, every subsequent bullet automatically finds its way to that exact spot. But do not let the effects fool you. The ZF-1 that Gary Oldman held was a real mechanical prop. It was so heavy that Oldman struggled to keep his hands from shaking while trying to press the buttons smoothly in front of the Mangalores. Every time the barrel rotated or opened up, he had to rely on the crew behind the scenes. 5. Leeloo's vibrant orange hair. It was not just a hairstyle. It was the most powerful visual icon of the entire film. However, few know that in the initial scenes, Leeloo's hair was entirely natural, crafted by a renowned stylist in New York. Unfortunately, the constant bleaching and dyeing required to maintain that specific tone severely damaged Milla Jovovich's hair. As a result, for the vast majority of subsequent scenes, she was forced to wear a wig. 4. The Mondoshawans retrieve the fifth element from humans. This opening sequence is the master key that unlocks the entire mythological world of the fifth element. Set in ancient Egypt in 1914, this is the moment we first witness the Mondoshawans, the great guardians of the universe. But hidden within is a bit of bitter irony in the script. Remember when the Mondoshawans decided to reclaim the stones and the supreme being because this world is no longer safe? It was a chilling prophecy, as World War I officially broke out immediately after. 3. Humanity faces absolute evil. You likely remember the scene where humanity confronts the dark force while the president of Earth is still hesitating. The general rushes to persuade him. Shoot first, ask questions later. However, instead of being destroyed, the entity absorbs the energy and doubles in size. This scene brilliantly portrays the film's central theme, the folly of mankind when faced with the incomprehensible. Humans tend to choose violence as the first resort, only to reap catastrophic and irreversible consequences. 2. Corbin's stolen kiss. The scene begins with Corbin Dallas's patient attempt to wake Leeloo from her long slumber. In a moment of weakness, Corbin tries to steal a kiss while she is still asleep, only to be met with a cold shower as Leeloo wakes up. It is amusing to see Corbin, a seasoned former Special Forces operative who has survived countless battles, become ridiculously flustered and awkward in front of a girl who looks fragile but possesses extreme self-defense instincts. And do you remember the moment her gaze softens when she realizes this is her savior? To spark her memory, Corbin has to struggle to remind her that he is the unlucky taxi driver with the phrase "big bada boom." 1. The phone call from Mr. Shadow. Despite usually being a ruthless tycoon, Zorg suddenly shows sheer terror, trembling as he faces his master's ghostly voice. When questioned about the whereabouts of the stones, he awkwardly justifies that costs have tripled due to unforeseen circumstances. In that tense moment, a strange black liquid begins to streak down Zorg's face. This is a manifestation of the horrific psychic influence and the deathly threat from the ultimate entity surrounding his mind. After nearly 3 decades, the fifth element remains a colorful and eccentric cinematic wonder. The combination of Luc Besson's ahead-of-its-time vision, Jean-Paul Gaultier's avant-garde fashion sense, and a vibrant cast has created frames that, no matter how many times you rewind, still offer new details to marvel at. How about you? Which moment made you hit the pause button the most while rewatching this journey to save the universe? Share your favorite moment in the comments below.